So as a libertarian and more importantly a God-fearing human being, I am vehemently against war. I think it usually is destructive. It doesn't solve anything. And the most important thing is it destroys the lives of everyone involved. And I've been very against the treatment of the Houthis by the Saudis, and I didn't back that war. And I have not been a hawk on Iran. But what happened this week in Israel was totally unacceptable. A ballistic missile crossed in, was a ballistic missile was shot from Yemen, failed to be intercepted, and landed near Ben Gurion Airport. Now, the damage, thank God, the physical damage caused by this missile was not great, but the damage to Israel is terrible. Every airline in the world except for El Al is now cancelled flights. This is effectively an air blockade of the state, and Israel responded in the right way, blew up their airport, and then again today there was another ballistic missile fired. I think the policy should be that Israel should make it absolutely clear that any object that crosses into their airspace from Yemen will lead to absolute destruction, escalating every time. So if they do another one, destroy every airport in Yemen. If they do another one, destroy every port in Yemen. If they do another one, destroy every factory, everything in Houthi control. And if that doesn't work, then that would be, if it is true that Iran is directing the Houthis, then that would be cause to go to war with Iran. It is not obvious to me that we should go to war with Iran over their nuclear program. I haven't seen enough evidence for that. But if Iran is blockading the skies of Israel, similar to the way that Egypt did in 1967, that would be justification in itself to go to war. Israel should make it very clear to Iran that if flights can't land in Tel Aviv, they won't be able to land in Tehran either. All right, let's get into the show. I just want to talk about the thing that makes me most annoyed about PC words. The claim is that PC words are supposed to be more sensitive and more understanding, and I want to make the argument that not only do they end up hiding meaning, and they end up specifically misleading people, but they can actually be quite cruel. So Trump's been dealing a lot with immigration recently. So the term the left likes to use for illegal immigrants is undocumented immigrants. What is an undocumented immigrant? It sounds like somebody who's missing documents. Oh, that's great. So the solution would be to get them their documents. Except that the problem that this person has is not a lack of documents. He's not missing anything. He didn't lose anything. He won't be able to find it because the reason is that he doesn't have the documents. The reason that he's undocumented is because he's illegal. It would be like, let's say I'm a software engineer, right? So I write code and then I'm supposed to document it. So lots of engineers don't end up documenting it. So if I write code that works and I ship software works, I can say that code is undocumented. But if I don't ship the code isn't undocumented, it doesn't exist. The person is not legally here. So when you say an undocumented immigrant was arrested, well, they're not mentioning the crime there. So that is completely misleading and doesn't communicate what was meant to be communicated. If you say, why does this matter? Everyone knows what words mean. So they're just trying to be a little nicer. So let's have a listen to Representative Jasmine Crockett to see why words, in fact, do have meaning. This is Jasmine Crockett explaining whether it's illegal or not to enter the country illegally. Let's have a listen. Well, it's certainly not a criminal. Okay, so Jasmine Crockett says that it's not a crime to enter this country illegally. And that is because we have distorted the meaning of things. It is a crime. And whether you think it should be a crime or shouldn't be a crime, but you have to, if you have a country that has laws and a country that has borders, you have to enforce that. And it's certainly somebody that enters this country illegally has broken our laws. And calling them undocumented is causing this confusion. Now, you may say Jasmine Crockett is particularly dumb and not representative. but she is a United States Congresswoman. And so, if that is the level of discourse in this country, then you see the damage that has been caused by these speech controls, and it has to end. Another weaker example, in many ways, but I think there's a deep depth to it. Is, have you heard of the unhoused? So we used to call people that didn't have a home, we called them homeless. Now we are calling them unhoused. Why are we calling them unhoused? So, because the responsibility, I guess, is on society to house them. Now, the implication you get from the unhoused is, well, it's a scarcity problem. There's not enough housing. But if you've read the book San Francisco and you've seen what's going on with the homeless crisis, this is an addiction crisis. These people would not do well if they were just given homes. They're suffering severe mental illness. They often suffer from major antisocial behavior, and a lot of them are drug addicts. And the problem isn't the house. If you put them in a house, they'll be back on the streets in a few weeks. But homeless meant something. Homeless meant that you have nowhere to go, that you've burnt every bridge. And I'm not saying, or you've been kicked out of where you should have been and had safety. Now, I'm not saying that I judge those people, but if you call them unhoused, you've remove agency, which is always cruel to remove agency from people. It is always mean, and it is always unfair. And also, you're not dealing with the problem. You're saying, well, there's a shortage problem. No, it's not a shortage problem. There's no housing. I remember when they shipped all those immigrants to Martha's Vineyard, and they said, well, there's a housing shortage in Martha's Vineyard. There's no housing shortage in Martha's Vineyard. It's an island full of mansions. They're not planning on building more housing. They're like, well, we need government grants to build some apartments so we can house these people. No, it's not a housing issue. Another example is, have you ever heard, nowadays they refer to when a trans person wants to change the way they look, they call it gender reassignment surgery. So that implies that at one time there wasn't assigning, and now they're being reassigned. Like, let's say somebody, a policeman is assigned to the Times Square, and now he's being reassigned to the subway. Somebody that was born a man was not assigned anything. Nobody assigned him that. No one said, you are a boy. He is a boy. That's why sex change, even that is not great, because you can't really change your sex. At least that implied that you're physically doing something. Reassignment, whoa, and now they switch it to affirming. Now, gender affirming care makes no sense, because gender affirming care has to be, according to their logic, transphobic. Because if their claim is that the people that believe in this stuff claim that you can just identify as another gender and that's what you are. So why then is somebody seeking major invasive surgery? Why are they taking hormones? Because they are trying to affirm a belief that they don't really have. Because you can't reassign, you can't affirm. And affirming a pathology is not a good thing. This is if somebody is triggered by something, that's often because there's something in them that has to change. The term trigger warning, oh, that's a trigger warning. Oh, that triggers me. What trigger warning means is there's something in me that is affected by what is being said. And I should own that, and I should say, oh, that's in me. That's my trigger. The thing you're saying is not terribly insulting. They say I am insulted because of my stuff. But now it's like, oh, you have to warn me if you're gonna be triggering something. Trigger. It is exactly the inverse of what was there. The term body positivity, healthy at any size. I've seen this term, healthy at any size. That is not true. You cannot be healthy at any size. If you're morbidly obese, if you're carrying hundreds of pounds extra, you are unhealthy. You cannot be healthy at any size. What is meant by it is how to be the best health at any size, but the implication is nonsense, and it's cruel, and it's unkind to lie to people. Another example is a justice-involved individual. When Kamala Harris was the prosecutor in California, she used the term justice-involved individual. Justice involved in. How did you become involved in justice? Are you a judge? Are you a lawyer? Are you a cop? Oh, no. You are involved in justice because you're a criminal or because you've been arrested for a crime. Now, innocent until proven guilty. Justice involved person is certainly not the right term for that. That's ridiculous. Another one is, the gender neutral language. It's feeding. Feeding? You mean like from the rib cage, like from the neck? What does a chest feed mean? Oh, right. You meant breastfeeding. Now just imagine you had a new mother and she gave birth and you're teaching her how to feed her baby. And you say, welcome to a chest feeding class. And she has no idea what to do. So she says, well, what part of my chest do I feed her from? So obviously the answer is no, it's called breastfeeding. And that's why it is what it is. There's a reason why we acknowledge genders and of course sex and gender are the same thing. There's a reason why we recognize we recognize these ideas when we talk about a mother. We talk about a pregnant woman because we recognize that the experience of each gender is different. And by acknowledging that, you're not only being more specific, but you're actually acknowledging someone's experience. So the gender neutral language actually accomplishes the opposite of what it seeks to do. It ends up punishing and ignoring the sensitivities of the many for some very selfish, very self-absorbed few. And so we should make fun of this stuff because it's not kindness. It is not sensitivity. It is cruelty that takes us backwards. So this last week, the Houthis shot a ballistic missile at Israel, which they failed to intercept, and landed, thank God, in a non-crowded area near Ben Gurion Airport. This has caused serious damage to Israel's economy, as most carriers are now refusing to fly to Ben Gurion until May. And this is a big problem for Israel because this is essentially an international blockade, and the Houthis have achieved this with very low tech weapons. Now, Israel's response was fantastic, and this is something libertarians are against. Libertarians get this so wrong. People like Dave Smith or the Mises Caucus, people get Israel completely wrong. There is a strong argument to make. I have been since Obama's. I have been against the United States policy in Yemen. We supported a war against the Houthis. All right. So a good friend of mine, Brian Reese, sent me a couple of voice messages, and he's agreed to have them played in the show. He disagrees with my take on tariffs, and let's have a listen to what he says. In all fairness, I asked him after he recorded these, so these are obviously not as prepared as maybe he would have liked, but I think we'll get the gist of it. And so here we go, Brian Reese. What did I get wrong? Khalil Mamoda means everybody agrees. So I agree with that, and it sounds like my friend agrees with that. And let's see what he has to say about Trump. So the assertion over here is that Trump is not pro tariffs. So let's quickly test that theory before we go further. This is clips of Trump back in the 80s. Let me just find you the spot.
Back then, Trump's target was Japan and its trade practices.
The fact is that you don't have free trade. We think of it as free trade, but you right now don't have free trade. And I think a lot of people are tired of watching other countries ripping off the United States. This is a great country.
He believed from the beginning that there's really nothing worse than being laughed at.
I think Trump does like tariffs, and I think Howard Lutnick likes tariffs. And you see the way they speak about them is not only stupid, but is contradictory. So my friend's assertion is that Trump really doesn't like tariffs. He just wants to get a good deal. And there's some evidence to that because of the deals we just passed today, with Britain. The problem with that theory is that Trump says why he likes tariffs. So he says two reasons. He says, firstly, there's going to be a deal, and secondly, because we need to bring these jobs back to America. So those are contradictory statements. Either your goal is to bring manufacturing to America, and then you're going to leave the tariffs forever. What Brian has to say. So let's have more of a listen.
just saying, listen, they put tariffs on our stuff, so we're going to fight. We're going to try to get them removed, and it's not going to happen unless we put tariffs on their stuff. So I don't think that's such a big deal for him to say that. And I think that ultimately, if he says, "Oh, forget about him," if the tariffs are here forever, and no matter what, we're having tariffs forever and ever, fine, I agree, it's bad, but I don't actually think that is the plan. I think he's trying to get a better deal out of these other countries who are charging us to send goods to his places, to their countries, meaning you want to sell goods to India, they're going to charge you a tariff. And the truth is, I don't even know why the Indians are charging a tariff. They're being protectionist, or they're hurting their own citizens, but that they are. So he's trying to do that. I don't see what the gefährliche thing is in trying to, deal with.
He's acknowledging that the tariffs are not good policy, but he's saying they're trying to get back at they're screwing us, so we have to screw them. So tariffs is the weirdest way to do that, because who are you punishing? So his example, he can't sell diamonds to India, right? And he's going to say later on that after there was a free trade agreement, he ended up selling diamonds to India. Who is getting hurt? So let's say I accept the premise that the diamond seller is being hurt. So the tariffs are the tariffs on diamonds? No, because the tariffs are on diamonds in India. So what's their idea? To put tariffs on imports here. So who does that hurt? That hurts all the people in this country, and it benefits the people in those specific industries. Oh, and surprise, surprise, well-connected people always seem to get tariffs put on protecting their industries, and they always seem to get tariff relief for their industries, which is also why it's so corrupting. But why does Trump have the right to do that? Why does Trump, as a president, have the right to pick winners and losers? Say, to, in theory, protect, if they would, because these people are not letting us sell them diamonds, so we're gonna protect the steel industry. So it doesn't help the diamond seller. If this is what I propose to point as a thought experiment. Let's say there was let's say you had a backwards tariff. Let's say you had a reverse tariff, meaning that somebody could claim as a loss on their taxes, as a business expense, a complete one-for-one loss of whatever the tariff harm they caused them. Let's say, there's a diamond dealer, and there's a 50% tariff in India. So he sells a diamond for $1,000. He has to pay $500 in taxes there. The person who imports it has to pay that, and so therefore the American diamond is now $1,500 instead of what it would have been $1,000, and now it's not competitive. So why don't they have a law that says that if your customer is charged that tariff, then you can just give them the discount and claim that in your taxes, and that would protect the people that they're protecting. And obviously they won't do that, because that's not the point of tariffs. The point of tariffs is always protection. That's why those countries have tariffs. They're protecting well-connected industries, and that's why those countries are not doing well. Again, I didn't play all his words. There wasn't time, and if I play anything wrong, I'm happy to correct the record on a subsequent episode. So let's hear what he has to say about the short-term pain and what China said. Another really good point that he made, and I didn't struggling to find it, is that he pointed out that he was just in Australia, and people there are acting like Trump invented tariffs. And obviously he's right, that's not true. Other countries have tariffs, and other countries have way worse tariffs. My argument is always that tariffs are bad for them, so why should we copy that? The crux of the argument why China should be singled out. So this argument goes something like this: what do we need these cheap goods for? And we could shift manufacturing. Why does it have to be in China? Why do we have to build it there? So I am not so arrogant as to second guess why people build things in certain places. Tim Cook says that they have excellent tooling. That they have, if you've seen their ports, the shipping is fantastic over there. I am not going to second guess why somebody makes a business decision. My biggest problem with tariffs is that it infringes on my liberty. I ought to be able to buy and sell whatever I want. I should be able to manufacture something wherever I want, for whatever reason I want. because that's liberty. I should be able to figure out an idea, and I shouldn't have an imposed rule because my tax farm is in a dispute with a different tax farm. I should not, my ability to do commerce should not be infringed upon by the state. And you're essentially robbing from me. What do you mean? You're saying, whoa, it's going to hurt everyday Americans. It's not going to hurt. It's not like, oh, well, they'll have to recover a little pain. They'll have to take a little pain. No. That would be an argument for, say, raising interest rates very high to rein in inflation. Because what we're saying is that, well, what we would be saying there is that we've devalued our money, and the only way to fix it is this. Or that would be say, listen, we're all going to have to go to war. This country's attacking us. We have to have shared pain. Why does the state have the right to impose this pain on me because in the form of a tax, in the form of tariffs? Why should the president have the right to do that? And who is he to decide what I should and shouldn't have? Listen to this ridiculous statement that Trump made that brings the point.
So let's talk about the tariffs. And I want to ask you about something you said this week. Got a lot of attention. You were at your cabinet meeting. You said, quote, I'm going to quote what you said, maybe the children will have $2 instead of $30.
Yeah.
And maybe the $2 will cost a couple of bucks more than they would normally. Are you saying that your tariffs will cause some prices to go up?
No, I think the tariffs are going to be great for us because it's going to make us rich.
But you said some dolls are going to cost more. Isn't that an acknowledgement that some prices will go up?
I don't think
telling us to rein in our indulgence. But this is silliness. This is absolute silliness. There is 120% tariff coming on Chinese goods, cheap Chinese goods. So, oh, well, you just have less toys. But who does commerce with those toys? Who is the person that has look at those dolls, right? Those cheap dolls. What are they for? Well, besides for buying them for your kids directly on Temu, which is a fantastic, which is a fantastic thing to do. Why should I spend more money than I need to? But the other reason why, the other thing is that, look, let's say you're a carnival. So you have one of the things, a ring toss, I don't know, and then you give prizes, and those prizes are obviously all Chinese goods. So if your costs go up 120%, that's not you only have $30. No, your prizes are the $30. Let's say you're a caterer and you make special napkins and you order that and that's cost you 20 cents. Well, now what if it's 40 cents? That changes your business. That totally changes everything. And with just an announcement from the president, like a king, with just creating uncertainty in the world. And why? The American economy is not suffering because of China. We're doing great because of China. The fear that China is going to take us over. China's not going to take us over. They don't have the strength to do it. We have shown that overplaying your hand in the world only leads to destruction. And if China tries it, they'll end up in the same way. The Chinese economy is not strong. It's a totally inflated economy. You don't think shipping us from cheap goods has a cost on them, artificially keeping down their labor costs and their currency. It's not good for China. And the idea that well, we could just switch to a different country, what kind of nonsense is that? You can't just set up manufacturing 1, 2, 3. I'm saying, you need to source things. You have a whole supply chain. You just have to go round. And Trump said something even dumber this week. He said we have to have 100% tariffs on movies because it's a national emergency. What's a national emergency? That people are not making movies in Hollywood and America. Why should movies be produced here? Why do I care who makes a movie? It affects this country. It's patriotic to only want to watch movies that were filmed in this country. What kind of ridiculous thing is that? And it's a national emergency. And also, Trump, I don't know if you know about this, but we have streaming now. Most movies are consumed with streaming. You think there's people going to pay a tariff on something that they can stream? What kind of ridiculous thing. All that would do is just increase illegal downloads. It's just silliness. 100% tariffs on movies. National emergency. Trump is trying to curry favor with Trump does, as you see, likes sitting down with the progressive with the mainstream media. He likes them. He wants them to know what he's doing, and he wants their attention. So he's trying to get it with this. And he simply does not understand basic economics. And everybody with their voice has to shout this from the rooftops, that Trump does not understand economics. if Trump tanks the economy, and this is a serious concern now, if Trump tanks the economy, all the left will say is, well, you know why this happened? Because of runaway capitalism. This is libertarian free market capitalism. And this is the furthest thing from that. There's nothing to do with that. If the tariffs tank the economy, it will be because of socialism. Tariffs are socialist. They are essentially a method of fiscal redistribution. They take money from productive people who would otherwise be able to use that money in some other area, and now they have to give it to the state, who will give it to someone who will almost certainly waste it. And so I'm against tariffs. I don't think the government has a right to do them. I don't think Trump likes tariffs by themselves. I think he likes the idea of charging countries to do business with us. He thinks everybody wants to do business with America and they should pay to do it. And he doesn't understand economics. He doesn't understand who pays for it. And hopefully the better voices in his cabinet will prevail. Hopefully we'll get trade deals with everyone. But this nonsense of well, you don't need excessive consumption it just shows that Trump doesn't know what he's talking about. And it strengthens the argument that the president should not have the power to do this. That'll do it for today, guys. See you next week.